Hey everyone, this is the MC, Mr. Corey, and I'm your host of the Oation Station, one of many. In this very first program, of which we are calling Series 0, it has been a very peculiar and patient journey of many chapters leading up to the making of this very first series, and I am thrilled to be accompanied by my creative agency partners and your co-hosts, the one and only Captain Kelly and the ever so magical Lady Maven. What you are listening to is a long-form conversation between us, along with some of the key creative producers on our team. We begin by pulling the curtain back, so to speak, in order to reveal some of our methods behind the magical collaborations and creative projects that are being stewarded here at Seven Sound & Co. For your listening and viewing enjoyment, we have presented this discussion in 9 separate episodes, each of which are less than 1 hour and focused on a specific facet of our creative community.
In this first episode, Point Zero, we will begin with a deep dive discovery of our experience documenting the process as a growing, innovative creative agency on the move. Join in to discover why Seven Sound & Co. is turning heads and making waves throughout communities across a variety of industries worldwide.
Whether you're a musician, singer-songwriter, artist, producer, engineer, marketeer, or just someone who is curious to learn more about the creative process, you are in for a real treat. So grab a bite and your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's embark on this exciting new adventure together. Why not?
All right. Are you ready to meet the masterminds behind the magic? Let's get into it.
You're turning into a pirate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the everyone age, now allow all of us to inscribe on the same page. We could start with some music,
Or maybe a melody.
Could begin with a feeling.
or a sound that you heard. But whatever we start with, perhaps we begin with a word. A word? That's right! So if anybody out there has a word on your heart, one that is worth turning into a piece of art, well, come on then, shout it out. Especially if it's an idea worth writing a song about. La-da-dee-da, la-da-dee-da-dee-da-da-da-da. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to officially welcome you to the Oation Station, brought to you by Seven Sound & Co., our very first series, our very first episode of what is going to be an amazing journey that we get to bring you on. I am one of your hosts, the MC, the Mr. Corey, and what you can look forward to in this very first series that we're calling Zero, it's just the warm-up, is we're going to be bringing you into behind the curtain a little bit of what goes on in the studio. Specifically, we're going to bring you into our production studio, our recording studio, the different projects that we're going to be revealing for the very first time that we're very excited about. There's tons of creativity going on, and we knew that it was time to start sharing it. So this is what you are seeing. We have some very special guests on this series and series to come that you get to look forward to, some very special guests, creative partners, and other mysterious characters yet to be revealed. So without any further ado, I would like to properly introduce the other counterparts at the executive level of Seven Sound & Co. 2 very important guests, and also actually 4. We've got all 4 of the other partners of Seven Sound right here in this episode. With no further ado, you're going to learn about who we are, the people behind Seven Sound & Co., at least where we are at in this iteration of this amazing story. So, as we affectionately like to refer to her as, Captain Kelly and Lady Maven on the beat. So, take it away, guys. What don't we know about you in the context of this Seven Sound story?
Well, it's quite a story, that's for sure. I mean, it's a story that started a solid year ago, and it started in a moment of being a mom. And that's really the truth. It was the way in which the orchestration that we met was a moment where I was a tired mom who was tired of driving her kids for, I think it was the 6th time in the same day to the same building. And I was pretty much done, but wanted them to get to do their activity. And I was like, I really want to work on my project, you know, the thing that fills me up. And so I had them settled at youth group and decided not to drive one more time because I wasn't going to make that extra trip. So I decided to work on my project, which ultimately put me in the path of where you were coming through to bless the kids for the evening and to play worship with them. And so thanks to Poppy here and that lovely little jingle, she pulled me out of my, you know, paying attention to what I was doing, working on a prayer journal that I was finishing. And I look up and I see this little dog.
That's a magician.
And, you know, you were on your way to play for the kids and you were like, oh, I'll bring her back. And so you did. And then, you know, the whole time you were gone, I was like, I'm listening to you play. And I'm like, he's a really good musician. I don't know who he is, but I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. You know, I'm excited to see the dog.
Typically how it goes. I'm still here, but I know you want to just really
I
want to
know,
talk to
but she's
Poppy.
so cute. And so you came back, and I will never forget, you looked at her and you were packed up ready to go, and you said, I've had a long day. Make it quick, Poppy. And she jumped up into my lap. I had my laptop in my lap. She jumps up into my lap and makes herself at home. And you were like, okay, well, I guess I'll sit down. And then we went into this, hi, Pop. We went into this conversation about, you know, what on earth was I doing? And it turned out, well, I'm writing. And then you got inquisitive. And really from there, it became this intriguing, okay, well, this is who I am and this is what I do. And I want you to meet the rest of my team. And typically, I don't have that kind of availability to add one more thing to my schedule. I mean, I spend my day working operations and business management and running kids and being a wife and doing all the things. And there's not usually time. And for the last decade plus, I've led this women's Bible study that's always been on Thursday nights. Now, you and I met on a Sunday, and it just so happened that that following week, we'd canceled it for, I don't even know what reason, probably because it was summer. And so you were like, hey, would you come meet my team on Thursday night? And I'm like, well, just so happens to be clear this week. And so I was like, well, okay, we'll do that. But being a woman and not wanting to meet this mysterious cast of characters I know nothing about, but I was intrigued. I was like, oh, you seem like a nice enough person. I called up 2 of my girlfriends and I was like, hey, we're going to go meet this like team of humans. Come with me.
Yeah, little dog.
And a little dog. And I like the little dog, but I don't know about the humans yet.
Good job,
and,
Poppy. Knuckles.
And so meanwhile, I think it was right in between when you invited for that Thursday, I had an appointment to see you as my keeps me functional massage therapist on like that Tuesday.
It was always on a Tuesday.
Always a Tuesday. And I was like, you're not going to believe what happened on Sunday. So I met this guy and learned about his little dog and then learned what he's up to. And I don't really know a thing about this. And he asked me if I write songs. And I'm kind of staring at him. And yet I'm going to go meet him on Thursday. Like, am I crazy?
For sure.
And you basically told me, no, I wasn't crazy to go.
Go.
I got it wrong.
New experiences. I was excited for you. After hearing her for a year, this was like a new adventure, especially since you had just like transferred jobs or you had another shift in your life.
Yeah, I was 1 month from transitioning from one job to basically full-time writing and then into another role as well. And so that was that Tuesday, and it was the, okay, we'll report back when I see you next week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I need a story when she comes back.
I got to do something with that time, right? So I go to meet you and the team at the time, and this is just over a year ago. And I mean, there's always going to be a soft spot in my heart for hummus because that's how we bonded.
We met over hummus.
That good
pita.
cilantro one.
I was about to say, if anyone's got good recipes out there.
Gosh.
Yeah, like good cilantro hummus. That was
Pita
amazing.
and hummus, bro? Come on.
Now, what's up?
And
It's universal.
and so we met, and it was an intriguing conversation, which turned into, I think that was the first time you shared media was at the close of that evening, and you shared Time to Level Up.
Time to level up.
And I was like, what is this most intriguing message? And your arrival in my life really corresponded with a transition for me in, in a lot of different things, and really answering, the plans that God has for my life, not creating them on my own. And so I was like, well, this is very curious. And I don't know if this is it, but I'm intrigued. And so we met, you shared that, and then it kind of just evolved from there, really first almost into a friendship of getting to know each other. And you just continuously invited, and you invited me to songwriting. And
I
that
think
was
like that Sunday.
Yeah, it was that next Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Thursday we met, and it happened to be an opportunity to follow through on what we were talking about. I was like, hey, why don't you just come to a songwriting session? If you know how to write books, you can write songs. Easy.
And then that Tuesday, I think that's when you gave me a little insight into it. She really did have a good story when she came back.
It started getting juicy, huh?
Uh-huh.
Behind the scenes.
I came back that Tuesday and I was like, hey, you are not going to believe. And she's like, oh, I'd believe. What happened?
She's like,
who are these people? And I had to chuckle. I'm like, well, there's a man with a little dog and there's a man with a van. And then there's some other ones that I haven't met yet. And there's something about a circus.
You got it.
And I was like, and this is interesting. And I think I'm at a place in life where now I'm curious.
Right.
And so over that next week, I got to tell you what was happening. And then it was continuous. And next thing I know, there's this songwriting. And then songwriting turned into, I want to tell you about the circus. And turned into the most interesting 4th of July a month later that I'd ever had. Because typically 4th of July is, family stuff and 4th of July festivities. So I'd had kind of a month of back and forth, and Amber's witnessing this whole thing. And then, and you're just being a friend, and we're seeing you at the church, and, I'm like, wow, he's a really talented musician. How come I've never heard of him? And then I find out you're like from the city. And I'm like, well, this is curious. And then I start learning that our paths were interwoven and crossed with people
For a long time.
for 20 plus years, but we had never met. But yet we knew all the same groups of people. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. These are groups of people I trust that I've worked with. So I'm like, okay, by default, we'll start there and get to know each other. So July 4th comes along and my phone rings and you're like, hey, do you have a chance to meet with my team? We kind of have this pulled together minute. Let's meet the rest of the team. And I'm like, well, why not? There's no fireworks till nighttime. Let's do that. And so 4th of July, I head out about lunchtime to come meet you and the rest of the team. And it was an incredible meeting. I mean, this vision, originally you brought me in is, could you tell our story? And I'm like, awesome, I'm going to learn the story. And we're still going to write the story, by the way.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing better than a snowstorm in the desert.
A blizzard.
A blizzard in the desert.
In March.
In March. In Arizona.
March 1st.
Just bizarre. And I'm like, okay, a blizzard in the desert. I like this. Where's this going?
Something there.
So I meet some of these other cast of incredible characters, and they're sharing their vision, and you're sharing your grapple on how are we going to pull this incredible vision together. And I'm still not even sure where the vision came from, but I'm bought in because you guys are so intensely in love with what you're doing. And seeing you sit there and you've all got your notebooks out and your journals and like the extra paper, and you're scrabbling, trying to figure out, what are those, how are we going to weave these pieces together? Because we know it makes sense. And immediately I was like, oh, this kind of piques my operations mind. Like, I see a pathway in this. And so then the questions continued. 4th of July was great fireworks. It was a great meeting. And then I see you again on a Tuesday. And I'm like, you are not going to believe these people. Like, this is incredible. They're like this extraordinary artist. And for me, it was an answer to a passion of all artists that have poured so much in, but don't get treated well for what they do. And as I'm thinking about this and I'm seeing you, I then notice this picture on the wall over here. It's art. And I'm like, hey, like I see you and you keep me functional, but like this is really cool. I just love it every time I'm here. What is this? At which point, you then disclose something to me.
that was actually a project at ASU for one of my art classes where you had to depict grayscale, and I decided to do pen and ink, and the instructor actually didn't get to see the final piece. I got graded off of literally a 2-inch by 2-inch square, because that's over 200 hours that I put into that. But that was a project that I made.
You discovered that your massage therapist healer friend
Yeah.
just so happens to be a fine artist.
Yes. And you had just said the week before at this meeting, we're really going to be looking for an artist.
Like an
I'm
illustrator.
and an illustrator. And I'm like, whoa, I know one of those.
Mm-hmm.
This is interesting. And I'm like, okay, I'm seeing the pieces weave together. And then I'm hearing your story and your hurt of art. And the fact that not long after I see this, I think it was maybe 5 minutes, I then got a tour of the art gallery around your home.
Like, come on, I actually have a couple other of custom pieces around the house here and there.
And every one you revealed was
They're amazing.
more extraordinary than the first. And it just continued to pour into my passion of, wow, there's an entire group of people that need to be honored. They need to be treated in such a fair way that I want the world to know how incredible they are, because there's healing in that. And so it continued. And then we find out that you teach music lessons.
More specifically, I asked, does he teach beatboxing?
Could do that for
Like
sure.
That's crazy.
My son was like, Mom, I'm going to learn beatboxing.
Was
I'm
that-
like,
I could help him with that.
That's valid. That's valid.
I'm like, this interesting character, does he do that?
And I was like,
Yes.
yeah, I think so. Hey, check out this video. Here's some time to level up. Check this thing out.
And that was the first bit of inspiration, because like I've drawn, but as I told Corey and Kelly at different times, I very much what I can see. If I can physically see it, I can recreate it. I can sketch, I can do all that. Pulling out of my brain, that was not a skill that I had at that time.
Well, and we had bonded over other things. We'd bonded as moms. We both have sons. And then there was this new piece of, we have kids that are music curious. But then what do you do with that? And yours is multifaceted curious, and little did I know mine were too. And yet, in walks you, Corey, with all of these tentacles in all of these creative facets, where we had no clue that our kiddos
That's one way to put it.
truly had this interest, and your ability to inspire is honestly paramount. I mean, I've taught for a long time as an educator, and watching you with children and really anyone wanting to learn is one of my favorite things, because your ability to get people out of their comfort zone into a place where they're willing to trust and create is extraordinary. And we've gotten to watch that with our own children.
I very much I didn't see my son as learning traditional. And with everything he's gone through, I mean, with his history, I have a son. I mean, I always talk about it. I actually have a page on Facebook called Ulcerative Colitis Journey with a Toddler, because my son got ulcerative colitis diagnosed at the age of 2. And on top of that, he was a premature baby by 10 weeks. So he spent 5 weeks in the NICU, and I got to see this itty bitty 2-pound, 9-ounce child grow up. And I had made him a promise sitting next to him in the NICU that I just wanted to get to know who he was. Like, thank you so much for gracing your presence for me. I had been wanting to be a mom for 5 years, trying. I had completely given up. So with him, I want to make his world. I want him to have experiences and everything, which I know there's a lot of parents out there. Like, a lot of times moms will put off their own dreams to make sure that their children have those dreams that they themselves may not have been able to achieve at that age.
Wow.
Which is where we had found ourselves. As we started talking, and you started talking art, and I started talking writing, we realized we were trying to give our children the things that as moms we had said, we'll put that on the shelf. And yet you looked at us while working with our kids and went, why would you do that?
It was a very interesting thing that, I mean, I still remember very much that Time to Level Up is what inspired me
Wow.
to start drawing.
Wow.
And then
Hasn't
watching
even
you.
been released.
Hasn't even been released, but it's done
But
magic.
it's incredible.
Time to level up into a higher vibration where we all become one in this new generation.
And was the beginning of the magic.
And that's a wrap of Point Zero, folks. We had a blast uncovering the brilliance behind some of our favorite creative endeavors here at Seven Sound, and we hope that you are feeling as inspired and energized as we are to keep scheming the dream with your team.
Remember, creativity is all about pushing boundaries and thinking outside the box. The stories and messages shared in this episode are only a few of the testimonies from our journey together. This is just the warm-up of much more coming your way soon. So stay close because next week, we've got another amazing episode lined up just for you.
All right, y'all. Until then, keep dreaming big, stay curious, and let your creative light shine. If you would like to stay in touch and learn more from us, be sure to go hear and see what we have been up to at youtube.com/@7soundstory. Also on Instagram and Facebook at 7soundstory. And remember to keep checking in at 7sound.co for the latest updates, along with opportunities to collaborate, support, and participate with us.
Thank you all for tuning into the Oation Station. We can't wait to catch up with you on the next part of our conversation coming up in episode 0.1, where you will get to hear more from Lady Maven about her story, along with a journey into the process of making Book Zero, a very special visual album experience we are looking forward to releasing with you coming early fall. That's all for now. Go out there and live intentionally, make art from your heart, and be inspired.